What's up guys, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this very special ryobi trimmer, and the problem is that it's missing a very important component. We're going to try to get this trimmer started today, but not by any ordinary means. In the previous video, we took a look as to why this trimmer wasn't starting, and of course it was the carburetor. It usually is. Once it was running, it still needed some fine-tuning, but that's in a later video. We were able to get the trimmer running because it still comes with a pull rope as a backup. The reason we didn't use this feature in the last video was that one major component was missing, the battery. So the battery was missing when we got this trimmer, and I doubt we're ever going to get one. Instead, we're going to use this 12-volt SLA battery just to test it out. Let's run some wires from the trimmer and then connect them to the battery. I'm not sure about the polarity, but we'll switch the wires around if there's a problem. And once the wires are connected, let's flip the switch to the start position and see if it works. Well, it looks like we have a little problem. Either the switch is broken, or we have a wiring problem, or the electric motor itself could be dead. Let's remove the wiring loom and inspect the wires and the connectors there. So here are the connectors for the motor. Let's disconnect the connectors and put power to them here, and this will test if the switch was the problem. So even after switching the wires around at the connector, it still didn't work. We're going to have to get to the motor and see if there's a problem there. Well, it turns out the bolt at the bottom left is a different size, so it's probably not one of the ones securing the gearbox to the back of the engine. And once the gearbox is out, we can see that the one different bolt was actually securing the cover over the motor. We have to remove it to get to the back of the motor now. Okay, so it looks like we found our problem. It looks like the red positive wire has come off of its terminal. Let's put some power to the terminals and check to make sure that the motor still works. Well, it looks like the motor works just fine, so let's solder on an extension to the red wire since it looks to be a little bit short. The wire gauge that I'm using for the extension is also smaller than it's supposed to be, but this is mainly a test as I doubt I'll ever get a working battery to keep using the electric start feature. I also didn't have any red wire, so blue is going to have to do. I really don't know how much of an extension to make, so this should be more than enough. So don't judge me too harshly, but I couldn't find any of my heat shrink tubing, so electrical tape will have to do as well. And after the extension is done, carefully reinstall the plastic cover to the gearbox. And once the gearbox is back together again, reinstall it onto the engine. Let's hook up a battery and let's try using the electric start one more time. Well, it appears that something is wrong. It spun the engine like the spark plug wasn't even in the engine. Let's take the gearbox off and take a look at it and test it if we need to. Okay, I think I know what's wrong. Let's reinstall the motor and the gearbox and try that one more time. That's what it did the first time. Now let's swap the polarity and see if we get a different result. I'll explain this more in a minute, but right now what I want to do is put some gasoline into the fuel tank, prime the fuel system, and try starting the engine with the electric start. Now I do have an interesting theory for what happened to this trimmer and why it doesn't have a battery anymore. Okay, so the wires for the electric motor are keyed. The red wire has a female connector, while the black wire has a male connector. That way you can tell which one is which, and then you can't mix them up later on. The wires that they connect to are also male and female, so you can't mix them up either. Let's try restarting the engine again to make sure that everything works like it's supposed to. So here's my theory. I think someone got the wires backwards on the starter during production. When the trimmer was tested at the end of the production line, it didn't start like it was supposed to, and in fact it was spinning backwards like it did on us earlier. So their solution was to cut the red and black wires and put on the opposite connectors. However, They cut just a little bit too much of the red wire, making it too short and putting too much tension on the terminal, causing it to break later on. When it eventually stopped working, the previous owner thought it had a battery issue and removed the battery and then just kept using the pull rope instead. So my question to you is, would you like to have a push-button start on your trimmer? I thought the 4-cycle Troy-Bilt XP series trimmers were heavy, but this has got to be heavier by at least 2 pounds. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope to see you in my next video.